So if you're watching this video, you're probably in sales or ops, or managing a sales team, or a sales leader yourself. And you start to realize that you're spending a whole heap chunk of your time every single week simply just researching prospects. Now, you research prospects for a few reasons. Well, typically maybe an inquiry comes through, you're spending money on ads to acquire these leads, and you're having to sit at your desk, and you probably have a personal set of processes that you go through manually to individually kind of qualify and dig a little bit deeper as to who these prospects are. Are they even qualified and fitting in your ideal customer profile? Where are they calling from? Are they even in your serviceable area? And gathering some additional information to then really decipher and deduce if they're the best fit for your business. Now, whenever I speak with clients and they tell me that they routinely have to conduct this repetitive actions every single week as part of their job, I immediately think of automating it. There are so many tools these days out there accessible to us at low cost that will really allow us to save and shave off a huge chunk of your time from manual repetitive tasks and allow you to just straight away just jump into doing what you do best. Now, research shows that the average sales rep spends about 6 hours every single week on administrative tasks. And obviously within those 6 hours comes with these research, right? The lead comes through, grab their name, grab their company or whatever information that you have on your contact us form, pop it into Google or LinkedIn or something like that, and try to extract and dig through all the information available publicly and pop it back into your CRM to enrich it and refine it and to prep yourself for the call that is going to happen. Now, this was the use case that literally 2 weeks ago a client reached out to me to try and solve, and after 24 hours I went away to have a think about it. I came back 24 hours later and provided with an MVP, or a minimum viable product, demonstrated that, hey, this is the kind of the idea of how it's going to work. And then in about a week later, we essentially fully deployed this automated lead enrichment flow into your system. So if you're interested and you stuck through it this long, let's jump back inside because it's freezing out here, and I'll show you how we've done that. All right, what I'll do here is actually show you my thought process from start to finish. I'm gonna show you the final product obviously at the end, but right now this is the portion where I would like to reflect on what actually went through my mind as I came out of that call. Because as things always go, when you first think of an idea, you sketch it out, it always seems very simple. Like, yeah, take me 5 seconds, no problem at all. But as we explain the final build at the end, we'll start to realize that there are a lot of nuances, a lot of considerations, a lot of things that we had to double take on to make sure that not only does it solve the problem, but its efficiency as well, total overall cost, and most importantly, it's how does it actually affect and seamlessly integrate into a business's processes. The last thing you want to do is jeopardize or cause any sort of mess with how a business currently operates just to fulfill this nice to have kind of additional option. Okay, so anything that we procure, anything that we kind of develop, it needs to be deployed in a way that doesn't disrupt the existing workflow of the organization as a whole. So let's get to it, right? As we said before, this is a lead enrichment. The whole idea here is as someone fills in their information on the form, this comes through via ads or any other form of top of funnel engagement. We'll then capture a few properties. This will then live in the CRM, obviously. And what we want to do next is identify, let's just say, this field right here is what we're going to be using to conduct deeper research. In this particular case, it was the company name. Then from there, what they wanted to do was the client essentially said, hey, look, I can simply just pop in this company name into ChatGPT and it will then spit out for me all the things that I need, right? Who the founder was, who is the key person in this particular role, their address, their specialty, their experience, about us, all that sorts of stuff. So in this particular case here, they specifically said, I want to use ChatGPT. All right, great. And this is where we enrich the data. And what they wanted to do was from here, loop back into the CRM and just rinse and repeat. Okay, so this sounds very simple, but in reality, there are a few things that we had to consider, and it made things a little bit more complicated. So jumping into HubSpot now, I'm going to show you guys the full rundown, right? So the very first big problem here was that once the lead actually comes through into the pipeline, what we got from the contact us form is basic information, right? First name, last name, email, phone number. We also get their company name, and that's pretty much it. What I decided to do here is to use a combination of 4 different systems, HubSpot being one of them, Google Sheets, Zapier, and N8N, and obviously ChatGPT. So over here in HubSpot, we first created a workflow, right? The workflow essentially has a trigger that once a deal has been created, start off this whole process. And the very first note here that we have created was create a Google Sheet row. We mapped all of the columns and headers against the properties that are inside of the system right now. And what then that will do is wait for a delay. We wait for about an hour until we actually receive back information from that Google Sheet. This is the heart of the automation right here, is in N8N. And this is the final version after rounds of tinkering with it. This workflow pretty much has 3 main sections to it. Right, we have the trigger. We then have a code that runs and scrapes the website once it finds it. We'll then send it to OpenAI to enrich, and then we then update that Google spreadsheet with the final answers. And then this is where Zapier will come in, and then Zapier will then pick up on the fact that the Google Sheet has been updated with the enriched information and push it back into HubSpot. So starting from the very front here, I'm going to walk you guys through this. So this is a schedule trigger. So what I realized is that when we're building out the MVP, it's okay to just have an instant trigger, right? But after a while, we start to realize that that's very costly. If this workflow is continuing to run every single minute, for example, well, it's going to take a lot of credits, right? We tried to run it for every 5 minutes. That still takes a little bit too much. And we found a little nice sweet spot, a nice little balance between the frequency of which the deals actually comes through versus the tier of, N8N tier that they've actually purchased. So in this particular case, we found that an hour actually works really, really well. And what this essentially does is that it will then pick up every single time on a column in the spreadsheet that says pending or it's not completed yet. And once this automation picks up on the fact that a new row has been added, but that status is not complete, it will then pick up on that and then run it through and push it to the rest of the workflow here, basically push it downstream. And you'll pretty much keep looping over the different rows and keeps checking all the ones that are empty until it fulfills all of them. There's a little branch here just for a safeguard. So if the company name is unknown, because sometimes people just don't fill it in, then it will just update the spreadsheet that says, hey, look, it failed because company name is not known. Nothing you can really do about that. Now, this is the crux of, this is the most important part right here, okay? So explaining this to you guys. So we'll then essentially ask this particular node here to run a web search on the internet using that company name and find the best match. Okay, this is where I actually got tripped up a little bit, because what does best match even mean, right? So we could obviously, ideally, in the best case scenario, the company name matches the domain. That's number one. So we'll see if that's the case. Number two, because this client is specifically in the dental industry, what we did was we ran a script that essentially says, please only return a match if the website or the URL or the company is in the dental industry. If not, find the next best URL or the next best domain. Now, another thing to consider here as well is that we also had to ignore a few things. You can see here we blocked a couple of domains from actually being picked up on, right? So we don't want Facebook, we don't want LinkedIn, not Instagram, Yelp, Yellow Pages, healthgrades.com, whatever it is. We want to ignore all of that. We only want to scrape and return the website itself, because the website then holds the information that we actually need. Now, next thing you're going to do here is then also scrape or find if that particular website has a About Us or a Our Team page, because that's where we can find more information about the staff, who the founder is, what their experience is like, and things like that. So because we also need to pull information specifically about that, we ran a node that searches for this particular page on the website if known, and then extracts data from that as well. Now, this particular node here is important because what this essentially does is it allows us to convert the information that has been scraped into something that's readable for OpenAI, and also for us to extract back out into our system. When you get a bot to scrape a HTML, it returns a very messy chunk of gibberish, right? It's gibberish for us. For a system, it kind of makes sense, right? But we don't want to feed that whole chunk of mess into ChatGPT. You want to give it very structured, detailed sort of output, that sort of inputs for it to run its search. Okay, so this is the prompt inside of the ChatGPT node. We said, hey, look, you are a structured data extraction assistant for CRM enrichment. You will receive an unstructured piece of content about a dental practice's About Us page and also their website. Return as a raw JSON. You need to extract this. You need to extract these pieces of information, so company name, company URL, job title, and all the things that we want. Give them some further information like, please do not include this, please include that, format it in a certain way. This is your data that is being pulled from the previous action upstream. And then this is an example output, for example. Now from there, again, if at any point in time in these critical junctures, we come across an error, there are branches here, here, and here that actually account for the fact that it has failed in this particular step, and here are the reasons why. Now finally, once ChatGPT actually sends it as an output, we need to then reformat the fields again to make sure that it's readable, in this particular case HubSpot, and then finally update back the Google spreadsheet. Okay, so I'm gonna hide the email address, but essentially this is how it looks like. We pull in the record ID from HubSpot, okay? We'll then update the status. So this is where the status is. Got some failures here, got some completed ones here, okay? First name, last name, company URL, job title, address, specialty, experience, and about summary. Okay, so only once the status is completed, that's when our Zap, or from Zapier, actually comes in, picks up on the fact that that row has been updated, and then update every single one of these columns with the appropriate mapped property inside of HubSpot. And the final product essentially just looks like this. We have a sidebar down here called lead enrichment, and it has and houses all of the information that has been successfully extracted from this lead enrichment automation. Now, I'm not here to say that this is something that is plug and play or templated. By no means I'm suggesting that at all, because every business is unique, every process is unique, every stakeholder has their own vision of what success means. But this is just an example of something that a fully automated system can solve for you. Now, if this is something that interests you in any shape or form or manner, feel free to reach out to me down below or book in time with me down below as well, and we'll see if something like this may be appropriate for your business. That's it from me. Take care. Hope you have a wonderful day, and see you in the next one. Bye.